Joining us now for a preview of the Democratic National Convention, which kicks off in Chicago today, Bill Daley, former White House Chief of Staff and former Commerce Secretary. He's now a senior advisor with startup Crux. And I was talking about 1968 earlier, and I mentioned, was it an uncle or grandfather? I can't remember how that worked exactly, Bill, but you were around. You must remember. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was 20 years old. My dad was mayor, and it was an interesting time in the country in 1968. My dad was mayor, yes.
Your dad was mayor, and is it the same venue? And it's going to be
no. The actual convention then was held in the amphitheater, which was in the Stockyard area. This is the United Center, closer to downtown. The demonstrations, Grant Park was where most of the violence took place, and the challenges to the police department and to the demonstrators were in Grant Park, which many of the demonstrators this week are going to try to march to and express their opinions there once again.
And I'm just wondering whether, it's a fine line. I know that I was listening to how they're going to handle it, and everybody is stressing that people are allowed to express themselves. But I really think there's going to be a strong effort to keep it at a larger distance from the actual DNC itself. Do you know what the planning that's going into that is right now?
That's all. Yeah. That's always the case, Joe, whether it was in Milwaukee with demonstrators for the Republican convention. They are now kept many miles, maybe 2-3 miles away. Okay. Obviously, the demonstrators want to get close to the convention hall. Security officials want to keep them away. But they'll have plenty of opportunity to make noise and to demonstrate, express their opinions, but not challenge at the actual convention hall.
It's kind of interesting because I saw that they actually had a meeting, Bill, that it's not Joe Biden anymore. It's someone maybe more, a little friendlier to maybe the cause, or at least that's the perception. And should we call it off? There's no way these demonstrators were going to ever call it off. The chance to go ahead and demonstrate, especially with the history of Chicago and the DNC and everything else. So it's full force, which is, I don't know, I think it's kind of unfortunate, but.
Look at that. It's a right. Obviously, this is the focus. All the media of the world is here in Chicago this week. Mm-hmm. So if you have a gripe or you have an opinion on something, you're going to express it this week.
There's opinions, and there's from the river to the sea and death to genocide to Jew. I mean, the stuff that we saw on college campuses, there's no reason to hope that goes forward uninhibited. That's totally unacceptable, what was happening on those college campuses.
You can't take what happened on college campuses and say that's exactly what's going to happen on the streets in Chicago.
It's the same people.
I think that's apples and oranges. There's many of the same people, and there's many other people that are coming for either more nefarious purposes or for some other gripe. There was a large march yesterday on the LGBTQ community, and so I think you're going to have these events attract lots of issues. Now, the largest group will probably be the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel crowd, but there'll be lots of others. Trust me, there'll be lots of other people with gripes that'll be on the streets of Chicago this week.
Fine line to try to walk, especially with Antony Blinken over there right now in the whole backdrop.
Yeah, I agree.
You know all these people. It's a who's who of stars of the. Recent past in the Democratic Party. Who are you most looking forward to, or you can't even pick? You're so excited.
I think it's going to be interesting, quite frankly, to watch President Biden tonight at really the last major event of his presidency and probably of his career will be this and the attention that comes tonight. And then, of course, after he moves on, the vice president nominee and the presidential nominee, Vice President Harris, will be the stars. Even though Barack Obama and Michelle and Bill Clinton and Hillary will have prominent roles, it really moves from Biden to Harris Walz after tonight. So there's a lot of stars speaking. There's a lot of people in town, a lot of energy. These events are very different conventions than they were 30, 40, 50 years ago. They're really 4 days of free media and attention and a positive message of whatever the positive message is that the party's spreading about the future. And I think the vice president will talk more about the future than the past, because that's what people vote on. They don't vote on the past, they vote on the future.
Bill, do you think that President Biden is at all embittered by what happened? And I would expect that he will not, that won't be on display during his speech, because he wants to be the transition president and to pass off the baton. But you know him. Yeah. Do you think there's any animosity about the way it happened?
I would assume there is. He's human. And obviously it was not the path he wanted to have happen. So I would assume there is. That's just human nature. He will get over it. He is a pro. He's been around a long time. He understands politics as well as anybody, and the difficulty of it and the challenges of it. So I think he will, I'm sure there's some of that feeling, and surely by his family, again, understandably. But he's a good soldier, and he will be there for the vice president. He'll be there in whatever role they want him to be, and over the next 6 months of his presidency. And with the challenges in the world that are somewhat out of his control, we're going to need a leader, obviously, over the next couple of months to focus on some of these enormous challenges. Right. In spite of a campaign going on that will dominate the next 3.5 months.
Right.